You're lying in bed, it's 2 a.m., and your mind won't shut off. You're thinking about what you said, what you should have said, and suddenly the same moment plays over and over like a broken record. You're not just thinking, you're drowning in your thoughts. But what if I told you peace doesn't come from fixing everything? It comes from mastering your mind. Overthinking is the silent killer of dreams, joy, and health. And in this message, we're going to destroy it at the root, not with wishful thinking, not with blind faith, but with practical, spiritual, and mental truth. You weren't created to be trapped in your own mind. You were born to dominate, to manage thoughts, not be managed by them. It's time to break free from the prison of overthinking and finally find the peace that was always yours. 7K Poyens Takovia, thoughts are tools, not masters. Your thoughts were never designed to rule you. They were designed to serve you. Just like a hammer in the hand of a builder, your thoughts are tools, not masters. But the moment you hand the hammer the authority to decide what to build, chaos begins. That's how overthinking starts. One stray thought, given too much power, begins to build rooms of fear, wings of worry, and floors of anxiety in the architecture of your mind. Before you know it, you're living in a house your overthinking built, and you can't even find the door out. The human mind is the most sophisticated management center on earth. It stores memories, calculates patterns, and imagines futures. But it was never meant to rule your emotions or dictate your identity. You are not what you think. You are the one who manages what you think. That's the difference between a person who is emotionally grounded and one who is constantly overwhelmed. One has thoughts, the other is possessed by them. And if you don't tell your mind what to think, it will recycle every negative file in its cabinet and play them on loop like a horror film. I once met a man who lost his business because he believed every what if thought that crossed his mind. What if the market crashes? What if I can't recover? What if I lose everything? Eventually, he stopped making moves. He froze. He let his fear lead. And sure enough, what he feared came upon him, not because it had to, but because he let the tools take over the blueprint. The tragedy wasn't the market, it was the management of his mind. He was overthinking so much that he never took action. And the silence of action always screams louder than the noise of doubt. You have to speak to your thoughts before they speak for you. You have to confront the voice that tells you you're not good enough, you're not ready, you're not loved, you're not capable. These are not your thoughts. They are lies dressed as logic. They come to keep you small. But the mind responds to instruction. If you treat it like a child, it will listen. Command your thoughts, don't babysit them. Don't host them like guests. Evict them like squatters. Most people don't realize that thinking is just a rehearsal, but overthinking is the dress rehearsal that never ends. You keep replaying conversations that already happened. You re-argue arguments that are over. You re-feel pain that is done, and your body doesn't know the difference between memory and reality. That's why overthinking can make you sick. Your heart races, your tightens, your stomach flips. You're not in danger, but your thoughts told your body to act like you are. Imagine the level of power that gives you. If you can think yourself into anxiety, you can think yourself into peace. When a builder uses a saw, he doesn't let it swing wildly. He controls it. He applies pressure when needed and sets it down when the job is done. Why can't we do that with our thoughts? Why do we keep cutting deeper even after the wound has closed? Because we've forgotten we have permission to stop. You have permission to interrupt your own mind. You have permission to say, that thought is not welcome here. You have permission to guide your thinking like a ship, not let it toss you around like a storm. Every time you choose not to overreact, not to replay that negative memory, not to reanalyze that conversation, you're taking your power back. You are reminding your brain, I am the leader, not the follower. The mind is an employee. You are the CEO. Stop letting the assistant make executive decisions. This is how you begin to change your life. Not by changing what happens outside of you, but by changing how you govern what happens inside you. The war is not on the outside. The battle is internal. Win there and you win everywhere. When you understand your thoughts are tools, you stop fearing them. You start shaping them. And eventually you become the architect of your peace. What you focus on grows. What you focus on grows. It's not just a catchy phrase. It's a law of life. The same way water makes a seed expand, your focus feeds your emotions, your thoughts, and your outcomes. If you keep focusing on problems, you're going to feel overwhelmed. If you keep focusing on betrayal, you'll remain bitter. If you keep replaying what they did, how they hurt you, why they left, your life becomes a shrine to your pain. But shift that focus and you shift your world. The problem is not always the pain, it's your preoccupation with it. If you take a magnifying glass and hold it to the sun, it will burn anything underneath it, not because the sun is stronger, but because the lens focuses it. That's what your mind is, a lens. And wherever you aim it, energy intensifies. So if you aim it at your fears get harder. If you aim it at failure, your sense of inadequacy ignites. But if you aim it at growth, at peace, at faith, at goals, then your life starts to catch fire in the right direction. There was a woman I once coached who couldn't stop thinking about her ex. She cried every night, stalked his social media, replayed the arguments, tried to decode the silence. She said, "Why can't I heal? Why can't I move on?" I asked her, "What are you watering every day?" She said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Every thought is a seed and your attention is water. If every morning the first thing you do is check his status, read old messages, and ask yourself what went wrong, then you're not feeding healing, you're feeding heartbreak. And anything you feed will grow roots in your soul." That hit her like lightning because we don't realize it. We think we're just thinking, but thoughts become highways in your brain. The more you travel them, the more automatic they become. That's why you don't need reminders to worry anymore. It's your default. You don't even think about it. Your brain goes there on its own. But that can change. It changes when you intentionally redirect your focus. You can train your mind the same way you train a muscle. You tell it where to go, and when it goes somewhere destructive, you pull it back. Not once, not twice. Every time, again and again. This is the work people avoid. They want healing without discipline. They want peace without boundaries. But the price of peace is focus. You cannot keep focusing on chaos and expect calm. You cannot keep staring at rejection and expect confidence. Focus is your filter. Focus is your fertilizer. Focus is your freedom. Even in your relationships, if you only focus on what someone didn't do, you'll overlook everything they did right. And that's how people sabotage love. They magnify the flaw until it blinds them from the beauty. They let one mistake erase a history of kindness. But a wise person knows how to shift focus. They know how to say, "Yes, that hurt, but look how far I've come. Yes, I was rejected, but now I know my worth." That's not denial, that's direction. When you walk through a garden, you can either focus on the weeds or the flowers. Both are real, but only one deserves your attention because what you look at longest becomes largest. The same way the sun rises slowly and soon takes over the whole sky, your focus, if left unchecked, will take over your life. That's why you have to be careful what you meditate on. Be careful what you rehearse. Be careful what you replay, because you might be building a life around something that's already over. There's a reason elite athletes visualize victory before they even step onto the field. Their bodies follow the direction of their focus. So does yours. If you start your day thinking, "Nothing's going to work," guess what? You'll find evidence for that. If you start your day thinking, "I'm not lovable," your brain will filter out the compliments and highlight the rejection. But change your focus just slightly and things start shifting. Not because the world changed, but because you did. Focus isn't just about attention, it's about intention. What do you intend to grow? What do you want to see multiply in your life? Peace, then feed it. Gratitude, then practice it. Vision, then write it, speak it, declare it. Because what you don't intentionally focus on will be hijacked by fear, and fear is always loud. Fear always wants the spotlight. But focus is your volume knob. You don't have to silence every fear, just stop feeding it. You were never created to be led by distractions. You were built to be driven by vision, and vision only lives where focus thrives. That's why success is not just for the most talented, it's for the most focused. It's not about who had the easiest life. It's about who chose to focus on their assignment instead of their adversity. Stillness is a skill, not a feeling. Stillness is a skill, not a feeling. Most people think peace is something that shows up when the chaos stops. They believe stillness will come once the noise goes away, once the betrayal fades, once the money arrives, once people stop talking behind their backs. But the truth is, stillness is not waiting for calm conditions. It's mastering calmness in the middle of the storm. It is not the absence of conflict. It is the presence of control. Stillness is when you train your soul to stop reacting to everything that moves around you and start anchoring yourself in what does not move within you. You ever watch a ballerina spin? She twirls again and again, but her head keeps returning to one fixed point. That's how she keeps her balance. That fixed gaze is called a spot. Without it, she'd get dizzy, disoriented, and fall over. Life spins you too. Problems whirl around you, opinions fly at you, pressures build up. The question is, where's your spot? Where's your anchor? Stillness is that inner gaze you keep returning to no matter how many times life spins you. Stillness is the skill of being unfazed when the world is stirred up. It's when your co-workers are panicking and you're planning. It's when your family is arguing and you're aligning. It's when everyone is loud and you choose to be loud with purpose or quiet with wisdom. You don't lose your voice, you master your volume. That's stillness. It's knowing how to be a thermostat in the room, not a thermometer. Thermometers reflect the temperature. Thermostats set it. When you have stillness, you walk into rooms and change the atmosphere because your spirit isn't being controlled by external temperature shifts. It's set to internal standards. Stillness isn't denial. It doesn't mean you ignore what's happening around you. It means you decide what gets access to your spirit. You can acknowledge the chaos without letting it contaminate you. That's why some people go through hell and still come out looking heavenly. because they didn't let the fire get inside. That's a skill, and it doesn't come naturally. It's practice. It's worked. It's earned. You train yourself not to react to every trigger, not to clap back at every insult, not to jump at every offense. You train your nervous system to pause, your mind to breathe, your mouth to listen, and your heart to be still. Think of a deep ocean. On the surface, waves crash, winds scream. Go deep enough, thousands of feet down, and it's silent, calm, unmoved. You are that ocean. You were never meant to live only on the surface, tossed and turned by everything that comes and goes. You have a deeper place inside you where the storms of life can't reach unless you rise up and meet them. Stillness is learning to live from that depth. It's not suppressing your emotions, it's leading them. It's not pretending you're okay, it's commanding your soul to stand still while you figure things out. I knew a man who was always surrounded by drama, family issues, business lawsuits, social attacks. But you'd walk into his office and feel peace like walking into a cathedral. You'd expect to see anxiety, but you'd see alignment. I asked him one day, how do you stay this calm when everything's on fire? He smiled and said, the fire's not in me. I learned years ago if I put the fire inside, I'll start burning myself. So I deal with fire, but I don't live in it. That's stillness, the skill to face heat without letting it change your internal temperature. In daily life, this means walking away from arguments you don't need to win. It means not opening your mouth just because you have something to say, but speaking when you have something valuable to deliver. It means not reacting every time someone disrespects you online, in the office, or even at the dinner table. Why? Because not every noise deserves a response. Not every conflict deserves your energy. You don't owe everyone your presence just because they made you their target. Stillness lets you choose your battles with wisdom instead of emotion. You can't reach purpose if you're constantly pulled by distraction. You can't build anything that lasts if you're emotionally flinching at every small thing. Stillness is what gives you the space to think clearly, speak wisely, and act strategically. It keeps you from self-sabotage. It protects your reputation. It strengthens your decisions. And most of all, it guards your peace like a warrior standing at the gate of your destiny. Mastering stillness means you don't just learn how to calm down, you learn how to stay calm up. You stay elevated, focused, and rooted even when the winds of pressure blow. It's when you're in the storm, but the storm is not in you. It's when you stop praying for the winds to stop and instead learn how to sail through them. That's not a feeling, that's mastery. And mastery, my friend, is always practiced in silence before it's praised in public. Interrupt your thought patterns. Interrupting your thought patterns is not about pretending your mind isn't racing. It's about grabbing the wheel when it is. Too many people live like passengers in their own brains, getting dragged around by old memories, future fears, and imaginary conversations they'll never have. They don't think on purpose. They're thinking by habit. They become slaves to the momentum of their mind. But here's the truth. You cannot change your life until you change the direction of your dominant thoughts. Your thoughts are not just ideas, they are architects. They build your emotions, your beliefs, and eventually your reality. Interrupting a thought pattern is like hitting the brakes when your car is about to crash. It's the moment when anxiety begins to spiral, and instead of letting it take you down that familiar dark tunnel, you pause, you question it, you disarm it, you talk back to it. It's like telling your brain, no, we're not going down that road again today. We've been there and it leads to nowhere. Have you ever been stuck in traffic and your GPS tells you to reroute? That's exactly what you need to do with your thoughts. Just because your brain wants to follow an old route of negativity, overthinking, or fear doesn't mean you have to go with it. You can pause, breathe, and choose a new direction. That's what interrupting a thought pattern looks like. It's building the muscle of mental redirection. Let me tell you something powerful. Just because a thought visits you doesn't mean you have to entertain it. Some thoughts are like toxic guests. They show up uninvited, they make a mess, and they overstay their welcome. But you've got the authority to evict them. You can say, you don't belong here. You've got the power to put a mental, do not disturb, sign on the door of your peace. Interrupting thought patterns doesn't require a fancy strategy. It starts with awareness. Most people are unaware that their mind is even speaking. The brain is so fast and so automatic that you don't notice that you've replayed the same failure from 5 years ago 20 times in one morning. But the moment you become aware of it, that's the moment you reclaim your power. Here's a tool. When you catch a negative thought, say it out loud, not to entertain it, but to expose it, because darkness thrives in silence. Thoughts like, I'm not good enough, they're all talking about me, or nothing ever works out for me, those are lies dressed up as logic. And when you hear them in your own voice, you'll realize how false they sound. Then replace them. You don't fight thoughts with silence, you fight thoughts with truth. And truth isn't a feeling, it's a decision. Picture this, a young woman wakes up every morning with her heart racing. Her first thought is, What if I mess up again today? That one thought sets off a chain reaction. She starts doubting herself. She moves slower. She avoids people. She cancels opportunities. One thought. But what if she stopped right there and said, no, I've made mistakes, but I'm not a mistake. I've failed, but I'm not a failure. Today is new, and so am I. That's interrupting the pattern. That's building a new mental highway, one choice at a time. Or take a man who lost his job. His mind starts whispering, you're useless, you'll never recover. The pattern begins. But then he remembers the truth. I lost a job, not my skills. I lost a paycheck, not my potential. And he begins speaking life into his situation. That moment, when you break the loop and speak with authority, is when everything starts to change. Interrupting thought patterns doesn't mean your mind will stop being noisy. It means you become the voice that quiets the noise. You become the gatekeeper of your inner world. You choose which thoughts get to stay and which ones have to leave. You train your brain like a muscle daily, consistently, intentionally. And yes, at first it feels awkward. It feels like you're lying to yourself. But you're not lying, you're leading, you're not faking, you're forming. Forming a new identity, a new mindset, a new destiny. Every time you interrupt a toxic thought, you plant a seed of power. And over time, those seeds become strongholds of strength, rooted deep in truth. That's how you become a thinker who's not led by panic, but by purpose. A mind that doesn't echo trauma, but declares transformation. A person who doesn't overthink every possibility, but walks in peaceful clarity. You don't silence your brain by force, you retrain it by choice. You learn to lead your mind before it misleads your life. That's the work, that's the skill. That's the liberation. You can't control everything, and that's okay. You can't control everything, and that's okay. The sooner you embrace that, the sooner peace will start to find you. One of the greatest weights we carry is the illusion of control, the belief that if we just try harder, plan smarter, think longer, or stress more, we can manipulate every outcome. But life is not a machine. It doesn't always respond to pressure. Sometimes it responds to surrender. Let me speak to the part of you that's tired of managing everything, trying to keep everyone happy. Make no mistakes, avoid all risk, fix every situation, and never let anyone down. That part of you is not weak. It's human, and it's suffocating under the pressure of unrealistic expectations. The truth is, control is a comfort we crave, but rarely possess. And when you stop trying to control what's not yours to carry, you finally give energy to what is. Think about the weather. You can't control if it rains tomorrow, but you can bring an umbrella. You can't stop the storm, but you can choose how you stand in it. Life is exactly the same. You can't always control what happens, but you can control how you respond. You can't stop people from walking out on you, but you can choose not to chase after those who never valued you in the first place. That's strength, that's maturity, that's peace. Control is often a mask we wear when we're afraid to feel vulnerable. We think, if I just plan every detail, nothing will go wrong. But life laughs at that. Life throws curveballs, detours, delays, and closed doors, not to punish us, to teach us that trust is stronger than control. That resilience is not about being in charge of everything. It's about being grounded when nothing is going according to plan. Let me give you a real life picture. Imagine a man who gets laid off unexpectedly. He spirals. He used to call his boss, negotiate, argue, plead, but the decision is final. He blames himself. He replays every meeting, every email, trying to figure out where he went wrong. Weeks pass, he's exhausted. Then one morning, he sits quietly and says to himself, maybe this is not happening to me. Maybe this is happening for me. That shift from control to trust is the seed of transformation. Because a few months later, he starts his own business, something he never would have dared while he was trying to control his 9-to-5 security. He didn't need to control the loss. He needed to respond to it with courage. Or think of a mother who's constantly anxious about her children. Every move, every choice, she tries to micromanage it all. She's not sleeping, she's not breathing. Then one day she realizes, I can prepare them, but I can't lie for them. She lets go, not in neglect, but in trust. She begins to pray instead of panic, to guide instead of grip. Her children flourish more because her control wasn't helping, it was hindering. The lesson is this: peace is not found in controlling life. It's found in cooperating with it, flowing with it, trusting that every detour has direction and every delay might be divine. You're not weak when you release control, you're wise. Because wisdom says, I know the difference between what's mine to shape and what's not mine to save. Control says, I have to make everything perfect. But peace says, I can still move forward even when things aren't perfect. Control says, I must have answers now. Peace says, I can wait and still be whole. Control says, people must understand me. Peace says, even if they don't, I'll keep walking in truth. And here's the real power. When you stop wasting energy trying to control what isn't yours, you free up strength to master what is. Your thoughts, your habits, your emotions, your character. You can't control whether people appreciate you, but you can control how you show up. You can't control when the opportunity comes. but you can control your preparation. You can't control every outcome, but you can control your outlook. There's a calm that comes when you let go, a freedom that arrives when you stop white-knuckling life. You begin to breathe again. You begin to live again. You begin to move, not with panic, but with purpose. The river doesn't need to control the rocks. It just flows around them. The tree doesn't stress over the wind. It bends with it. Nature is powerful not because it controls everything, but because it adapts. And so can you. You were not built to carry what you can't change. You were built to rise even when the path is uncertain. So when life doesn't answer your questions, when doors shut, when people leave, when you feel powerless, remember your greatest power is in your ability to let go and still walk tall. Because true peace doesn't come from control. It comes from confidence. Confidence that you'll be okay even when the plan isn't. Confidence that even if the chapter is messy, the story isn't over. Confidence that no matter what breaks around you, what's within you doesn't have to break with it. Clarity comes through action, not analysis. Clarity comes through action, not analysis. That's not just a motivational phrase, it's a transformational truth. Too many people are stuck not because they lack potential, but because they're trapped in a cycle of endless thinking. They analyze every possibility, rehearse every scenario in their mind, overthink the consequences, and wait for the perfect moment to move. But here's the reality. Clarity is not a product of thinking more, it's a reward for doing more. Action is the bridge between confusion and clarity. You can sit in a parked car all day, turning the wheel left and right, but until you move forward, you'll never know where the road leads. That's how life works. Some people are waiting for a sign, others are waiting for the fear to go away, and many are waiting for someone else's approval before they take that first step. But clarity isn't something you wait for, it's something you walk into. You step forward and the path becomes clearer, not because the world changes, but because your perspective does. Let's talk about the student who doesn't know what major to choose. They worry, what if I pick the wrong one? What if I waste my time? So they switch majors 5 times, read endless blogs, consult countless advisors, but never actually try anything. Meanwhile, another student just dives in. They take the class, they do the internship, they show up even when they're uncertain. And in the doing, they discover this is for me, or this isn't what I thought. Either way, they gain direction, not by sitting still, but by stepping forward. Or consider the young woman who wants to start a business. She has the idea vision, but fear tells her, what if you fail? What if people laugh? What if you lose money? So she sits with her spreadsheets, making plans on paper, adjusting her logo 100 times, watching others live her dream. But one day, she decides to act. She launches quietly, without everything being perfect. She learns more in 1 month of doing than in 1 year of planning. The market teaches her, the mistakes shape her, the action clarifies her mission. She becomes sharper, stronger, not because she waited for certainty, but because she moved through uncertainty. Thinking has its place, but overthinking is a thief. It steals your time, your courage, and your opportunities. You weren't meant to be paralyzed by possibilities. You were meant to be empowered by purpose. And purpose isn't something you always discover in a moment of revelation. It's often something you uncover in the middle of motion. The person who keeps saying, I need to be sure, is often less effective than the one who says, let's take the next best step. Because even if the step isn't perfect, it breaks the fog. Action disrupts confusion. It interrupts hesitation. It reveals what works and what doesn't. It shows you the truth faster than theory ever could. You can read 100 books on swimming, but until you touch the water, you'll never truly know what it feels like. There's a power in doing that thinking alone cannot match. Action breathes life into your vision. It gives your ideas a pulse. It transforms intentions into reality. And the most successful people in the world aren't always the smartest. They're often the most willing to act while others are still thinking. Think of the man who wants to heal his marriage. He could overthink it. Should I say this? What if she misinterprets it? Should I wait until next week? And in the meantime, silence grows, distance deepens, and wounds fester. But the man who takes action, who sends the message, who apologizes first, who books the counseling session, not only brings clarity to the relationship, he brings life back to it. You want to find out who you are? Don't just journal about it. Start living, serve someone, build something. Take that class, go for that interview, write that first page, launch the idea, even if it's not perfect. The clarity you're waiting for is often standing on the other side of the courage you haven't used yet. You can't steer a parked car. And you can't steer your destiny by standing still in fear, waiting for everything to make sense before you move. Your job is not to have it all figured out. Your job is to take the next faithful step, to do something, because every action is an answer, every risk is a revelation, and every move forward pulls you out of the fog and into the future that belongs to those who dare to try. Peace is a decision you make daily. Peace is not something you stumble upon. It's not some magical state that finds you when the noise dies down or when life finally plays fair. Peace is a deliberate, conscious decision you make every single day. You don't wait for peace to happen, you choose it. Even in the middle of the storm, even in the face of betrayal, even when the job is shaky and the future is unclear, peace is a personal vow you make to yourself. There's a powerful truth that too many people miss. Peace is not the absence of problems, it's the presence of power. The power to decide how you will respond, how you will think, how you will walk through pressure without allowing pressure to walk through you. That power comes when you decide every morning, I will not let the chaos outside determine the calm inside. That's not denial, that's discipline. It's saying, yes, the bills are due. Yes, people disappointed me. Yes, things aren't perfect, but I choose peace anyway. Think of someone rushing to work in morning traffic, cars cutting each other off, horns blaring, and tempers rising. It's easy to react, to shout, to stew all the way to the office. But the driver who says, I'm not going to let other people's stress write the script for my day, that person is choosing peace. That's a decision. That's emotional maturity. That's the strength we often admire but rarely practice. And it starts with a choice. Now imagine someone scrolling through their phone, seeing negative news, toxic opinions, people arguing online. In that moment, you have a choice: engage in the drama, let your peace be hijacked, or close the app, take a breath, and reclaim your energy. Peace isn't about avoiding reality. It's about deciding what reality you'll allow to rule your thoughts. You are not a puppet to your environment. You are a gatekeeper. Every thought that comes knocking doesn't have to get a key to your mind. Some things you delete, some things you ignore, and some things you answer with silence. Peace is found in the way you treat yourself too. How often do we replay the past? How often do we beat ourselves up for mistakes we can't undo? But peace says, I've learned, I've grown, I forgive myself. That's a powerful declaration, because there are some people who haven't made peace with themselves, and that's why they can't make peace with others. They carry guilt, shame, regret, and it poisons their present. But healing starts the moment you decide that you are worthy of peace, not because you're perfect, but because you're progressing. And let's talk about relationships. You're not always going to get an apology. You're not always going to get closure. But peace doesn't wait for someone else's words. It rises from your own decision. You can say, they hurt me, yes, but I'm not going to rehearse that pain every day. I'm not going to wait for them to make it right before I move forward. I make peace with what I didn't get. That's freedom. That's ownership. That's how you stop being a prisoner of someone else's inability to love you right. Peace is also saying no. It's drawing boundaries. It's realizing that not every invitation is worth your presence, and not every battle is yours to fight. When you say, this is not good for my soul, and walk away, that's not weakness, that's wisdom. Peaceful people aren't passive, they're powerful, because they know what they're protecting. They know their mind is a garden, and they won't let weeds grow just because someone else tossed seeds of negativity. Every day, life is going to hand you opportunities to lose your peace. Someone cuts you off, a loved one disappoints you, the plans fall apart, the deal doesn't close. But you must ask yourself, what is worth my peace? Most of the time, the answer is not much, because once your peace is gone, everything else unravels. You think less clearly, you speak more recklessly, you act more impulsively, and often you end up regretting decisions made in a storm that could have been calmed by a quiet choice. Peace is power, but it's also a posture. You don't wait until everything's settled before you sit in that posture. You walk into chaos already centered. You don't look for peace like it's hiding under a rock. You bring peace with you like a weapon. You say, today I will protect my energy. Today I will pause before I react. Today I will not carry what doesn't belong to me. That's why peace must be a daily decision. It must be as routine as brushing your teeth, as necessary as breathing. Because when your soul is at peace, your vision clears, your heart opens, your strength multiplies. You're not just surviving the day, you're owning it. You're not just reacting to life, you're leading your life. And it all starts with one decision: I choose peace. No matter what, no matter who, no matter where, you've spent too many nights tossing and turning, replaying the same scenarios, wondering what you could have done differently, what you could have said better, how it might have turned out if only things had gone your way. But let me tell you something with fire in my voice and conviction in my soul. Peace is not found in replaying the storm. Peace is found in rebuilding your spirit after it. You do not owe your peace to the pain that broke you. You owe it to the future that's calling you. You were not created to be tangled in mental warfare. You were not born to be stuck in a cycle of overthinking, second-guessing, and doubting your own worth. You were born to walk with clarity, to speak with authority, and to stand with boldness. The battlefield is in the mind, but victory begins in the decision. The decision to no longer entertain every thought that knocks. The decision to no longer let stress dictate your direction. The decision to stand up and say, enough. I will not be a prisoner of my own thoughts. I will no longer be a victim of my own imagination. Listen closely. Overthinking is the art of creating problems that don't exist. It is like sitting in a rocking chair, moving back and forth, expending energy, but going nowhere. Your mind was not built to run in circles. It was designed to lead, to build, to envision, to conquer. So if you're tired of the cycle, if you're worn out from the anxiety, if you're fed up with the fog that keeps clouding your judgment, then this is your wake-up call. You are not weak. You are not lost. You are simply too full of potential to keep living beneath your peace. People will tell you to just relax or stop thinking too much, as if it's that simple. But here's the truth. It's not about turning your brain off. It's about tuning it in, focusing it, commanding it, guiding it toward what empowers you, not what drains you. You must become the CEO of your thoughts, not the employee of your fears. Because if you don't lead your mind, it will lead you, and usually in the wrong direction. The greatest war you'll ever fight is the war within. But the good news, you've got the power to win. Not because life is perfect, not because problems disappear, but because peace is no longer an outside destination. It becomes your inner declaration. You rise every morning and declare, today, I choose what thoughts live in my mind. Today, I guard my energy like it's treasure. Today, I will not replay what broke me. I will rehearse what builds me. I will meditate on purpose, not problems. And let me remind you of this timeless truth. Ships don't sink because of the water around them. Ships sink because of the water that gets in them. Don't let the weight of the world seep into your soul. Don't let the opinions of others drown out the whisper of your inner strength. You are more than the chatter in your mind. You are more than the fear you feel. You are more than the doubts that dance through your thoughts at midnight. Sometimes your peace will come from walking away. Other times it will come from standing still. Sometimes it will come from breathing deep, journaling your truth, praying in silence, or just deciding to no longer chase closure where there is none. That's okay. Peace is not one size fits all. It's personal, it's sacred, and it belongs to you. So hear me clearly, the most dangerous person in any room is the one who's at peace, the one who doesn't flinch when chaos comes, the one who doesn't panic when the plan changes, the one who can pause, breathe, and say, I know who I am, and I will not let this moment steal what took me years to build. That's power. That's peace. That's emotional intelligence at its finest. You've been through too much to let your mind turn against you. You've survived too many storms to let your thoughts become your tormentor. The greatest revenge is peace. The loudest statement you'll ever make is calm. And the most attractive strength is stability. So today, decide, not later, not when life slows down. Decide now that from this day forward, you will fight for your peace like your life depends on it, because it does.